welcome to Eclipse Games, the podcast where we bring you the latest in gaming news, indie reviews, and everything else under the sun. My name is Kendall, and I'm here with my co-host,
Tony, aka Blackula Untold.
Hey, I'm not mad at the idea of like a continuing Blackula series that gets that far. That's kind of hilarious. That's kind
Dog,
of
Dracula Untold was a fucking classic, and we didn't get a second one. I'm heated.
Man. Listen, there's so many fire like Dracula stories, vampire stories. I feel like they never get the love they deserve. Like it's
Nah,
a,
no, vampire stories get plenty of love. We need more werewolf shit. There's enough vampire shit. I just want a Dracula Untold too.
Now, I feel like with vampire shit, it's like, Twilight, of course. That's the one that everybody thinks of. But outside of that, man, like I don't think Castlevania is appreciated enough, you know what I mean, among gamers. I don't think none of them get as much love as they do. But you're right, werewolves need more appreciation. But that's a topic for an October day. We are here in early February for our latest episode, the 48th episode of Eclipse Games, back again, kind of keeping that shit moving. And it seems like this year is off to a banging ass start. Like, stuff is going down in 2024, folks. We've already kind of discussed ad nauseum, like all the directs and things like that, all the big shakeups that's happening with PlayStation. We've talked about the Switch possibly getting a sequel console. It is definitely time to talk Microsoft because if you're hip to the gaming world, if you've heard anything, on the grapevine about anything recently, you know that there's a lot of big shakeups happening for Xbox right now. We don't know anything for sure, but at some point during this previous week, all hell broke loose. Like everybody just started, oh yeah, I heard Gears of War is coming to PlayStation. Oh yeah, I heard, somebody might be dropping Halo on PlayStation. Like, Indiana Jones, which ain't even out yet. I didn't believe this. Tony will tell you, like, I was like, nah, ain't no fucking way. They ain't putting this game is not out yet. They're not announced, but I've heard the rumor myself that it's coming to PlayStation. So this would all kind of just be like up in the air speculation, things that people have thrown out there. If it wasn't for Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft, coming out and saying, "Hey, we hear you, and next week we're going to make a big announcement about the future of the business of Xbox," which just leads to all types of validity to all these rumors, and it's like everybody speculating. Like it's the meme of SpongeBob, like in his brain with like a bunch of SpongeBob's running around while shit is on fire. That's what's going on right now. So we need to break all of this shit down. And I know, Tony, you got some shit to get off your chest. I already know, man. So where do you want to kick this one off?
So, like, to me, this is going to be a fun episode because I think the most fun that you can have as a gamer is speculating on shit that's going to happen when you're not being a dick about it. You
100%.
know,
Yep.
so I was really excited to do this because the main thing is, and I said this like kind of when everything kicked off, is Microsoft going the way of Sega. Now, here's the
Yes.
thing
Yeah.
about that. That's not a negative thing. Like there's a negative connotation because everybody
Yeah.
used to say with Nintendo, man, why don't y'all just go make software and just start making hardware? And they basically want Nintendo up out of here. When I say that, I'm saying that from the perspective of that would probably actually be better for not just gamers, but the gaming industry as a whole. Because we don't need three consoles.
We don't.
Like let's just be real about it right now. We don't need three consoles. Two is a good number. Most people have two. You
Yeah.
got Sony and Nintendo. Nintendo's got the big name shit. They handled the Mario, Zelda, Metroid, all of that. Sony's got the big first person story oriented shit. And then Microsoft can pull back and kind of throw back to that old era that I love, that I always talk about, like in the mid 2000s, where you had the third party games that was just as big as the first party games, but
Mm.
everybody could play them on everything. NBA Street was on everything.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
had other like big third party games that were on everything. Microsoft can be that. And now you're still funneling money to three companies, but you're not splitting everything up into this big console because at that point, two consoles, it don't have to be a console war no more
You're
because
right.
everybody's got everything. If
Yeah.
you commit people to two consoles, they will buy two consoles. If you hold three in front of people, they're going to pick one or they're going to pick two, but something is going to be left out in the end.
And I think the big thing about that is that one of those consoles is Nintendo. It feels like it fits a whole different gap than like
There
PlayStation
it
and
is.
Xbox. Like Xbox always kind of felt like, okay, justify me needing it. Or not Xbox. Let me not single them out. But PlayStation and Xbox both existing, it was like justify why we would need this box. Like I'm picking one or the other. I'm going with the green or blue. Like what games am I
Yep.
getting if I go this route versus that route? And we've known this since honestly since the Xbox came to be. Like since PS2 Xbox generation, GameCube was actually more powerful than the PS2, I believe. So it was, in that conversation as far as hardware goes, but like the software was different. You already knew ever since then,
We're
if
gonna
you
have a
want Nintendo,
conversation about how underrated the GameCube was one day.
incredibly, it's one of my favorite Nintendo consoles. I don't want to make no bold statements, but it's up there because man, I'll talk about that shit all day long. But yeah, ever since that era, you already knew if you want Nintendo games, like if you want the Zeldas and the everything that they're gonna put out, you know what that means. Buy a GameCube, and if you want the big AAA games like Grand Theft Auto was at one point exclusive to PS2, right? And then suddenly it started dropping on Xbox. I think it was like a year later, but in that time, maybe it's because I was like fucking 14. That year felt like forever. Like, oh yeah, this was a PS2 game for the longest time. I'm pretty sure it was a solid
And
365.
that shit felt weird at the moment.
Yeah,
And you look at
yeah.
it now, it's normal. But that back then,
It didn't
man,
happen like that. Like, and the same thing happened with Metal Gear Solid. Like, you start to see substance and I'm not gonna try that
subsistence.
again.
You shit your
Subsistence,
pants one.
yeah, yeah. I was just gonna keep essing until we got up out of here, bro. I was gonna hiss the rest of this fucking episode like Meg Thee Stallion. But nah, but those two dropped on Xbox, and it was very much surprising to see that transition. It's kind of like how
Oh, we
at
got
a
Twin
certain
Snakes on GameCube.
yeah, that's true, but that was such its own thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I mean, I don't even know if Substance and the other one might have dropped on GameCube also. But
No, I don't think they did.
yeah, but that I mean, at that time it was a much bigger deal. But if you were getting a PlayStation, it was surprising if you had both. Like you were kind of fluxing if you had both a PlayStation and an Xbox. And that continued on the 360 era. It continued on to some degree through each generation. Like things kind of, started to blend together. And by the time the PS4 came around, I feel like people made fun of Xbox for like having no games, but I feel like the real problem was just that PlayStation has this long history of established IP and this history of more recently of buying up these studios. And, that's been their bread and butter. They're making their own games. Like Xbox was always a step behind as far as like what IP they could actually pull from as their own. Nowadays you got Halo, Forza, Gears. That's what we think of when we think of Xbox and Fable if it comes back out. But outside of those, it's always been like, okay, which box am I getting? Like, which one am I going to play the Assassin's Creeds and the Grand Theft Autos and everything that's coming to both on? So we really don't need two different fancy VCRs. Like, give us some different services on them rather than being like this one plays HD DVDs and this one plays Blu-rays. Because when Blu-rays win, the HD DVD box gonna look crazy in your living room, bro. Like, and I'm not saying
And
that
it did.
Xbox, yeah, right. And I'm not saying that Xbox is like that. It's not a failure, like you said, but they can fit a different niche to where the same way that a Netflix DVD slip is going to look crazy in your living room, but Netflix fits perfectly in TV, like under the app section, right? That can
Right.
be what Xbox is.
Yeah, I think like because back in the 360 era, because you're right, like the moment where it stopped being like you flexing if you got both was the PS4, Xbox One era.
Hmm.
Like 360 and PS3, you was still kind of flexing if you had both.
Yeah, yeah,
Once that moved forward, then it was like, okay, I can get both. But then there was like no incentive to actually have both. I had both. And the only reason I had both was because I had some extra money off some college shit. It was like, I'm finna just cop a Xbox One. I bought it. I played Gears 4 on it, and I sold that shit like 3 weeks later.
I mean, makes sense.
And when you look at the potential for Microsoft to kind of be a publisher, maybe not a full blown publisher, but to be a publisher. Like if you put Gears of War, if you remaster 1 through 3 and put it on a PlayStation, it's selling like crazy
It will.
because everybody that had a fucking PS3, they could talk all the shit they want about Xbox. They could talk all the shit they want. I ain't trying to hear it. Everybody looked at that shit and said, I want that. Because I ain't have a PS3. I bought my pops PS3. I had the 360, so I was playing Gears 1 through 3.
Mm-hmm.
Them shits would hit on a Sony console.
I don't
Like
be mad
right
at it.
now, they would hit.
Yeah. And before we continue, I want to just kind of dial it back because we are going off the rails as far as the speculation goes. None of this is set in stone.
None of
Xbox,
it.
they're not finna come repo your Xbox Series. You know what I mean? Like that's still gonna exist. They're still. What I think we should start with is how do they go forward? Because like this all makes sense. This all sounds good. We don't need another box. Cool. A PlayStation is sufficient, but they have one. Like there's one out right now. Some people are buying these jumps for $400, $500. You know what I mean? So I think that there's a period in time where they continue to do their thing, like do what they're doing right now, just kind of spread the love a little bit, give it to PlayStation, give it to Nintendo. But in my opinion, I don't think we rush into anything. Like I don't think we start to. I think that we do like a year long thing, if anything. If we start to put shit like Indiana Jones on PlayStation, it's got to come like a year later. Like that's my logic. Because you still got to give people incentive to buy the box you've already invested in. We only like 3 years into this. Well, I guess we're like 4 years in, but still, that's not
Game
the
quick.
end. Yeah, it did.
So I think obviously you don't like wholesale just kill the shit
Yeah,
like immediately. You're gonna have to kind of wean people off of it and potty train them in a sense. But I think there's space to continue with the box as it exists now, the Series X, Series S. There's a space to continue with that because Game Pass is still a thing and it's going to be a thing.
mhm.
And I don't think it's there to run on TVs like entirely just yet. You can run on your PC beautifully. It's Microsoft. It's going to run on your fucking PC. But they want it to be everywhere, and it's not in that place where it can run everywhere to the point where you go, I don't need this box. So they
Right.
have that going for them, where it's still kind of like you need this box or you need a flat box, but you need some type of box if you
Right.
really want to do this shit. So that's fine. But I think they'd be able to exist in a hybrid space because I honestly think you would have to almost turn the boxes into like a cloud box, like exclusively a cloud box, like that's what it does. And then
Yeah.
you drop the price. Like you could sell the box for like 200 and go, we got you get Game Pass Ultimate for free for like 6 months to a year.
Right.
$200 for the box, and then you got to re-up at the normal price or whatever it is. And then you straight.
That makes perfect sense to
People
me.
I would be willing to do it.
Yeah. And you know what? With the leaks that happened a little while ago, you can check out our leaks episode that we put out. There was that like cylindrical Xbox that I didn't mean to do that hand symbol. Please pretend you didn't see that. But there was that cylindrical
Keep that
Xbox.
shit in there. We're not editing it out.
There was that Xbox that leaked. It was like a cylinder and
The
it looked
funny
dope to
shit is
me.
you made that motion while talking about it leaking.
I did. I did. That is not funny. I don't find the
Yes,
humor in
it
that at all.
is.
I don't see what you're laughing at, but we're gonna move on. I'm a good Christian boy, and I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Please forgive that curse word, Jesus. But I feel like that little box is like perfect for this. Like that's a streaming box if I've ever seen one. That's definitely
Yeah.
gonna be there, digital only, make this cheaper, but give it. I mean, you can vary the price by giving it 2 TB. You know what I mean? It's gonna be all digital, so we're gonna want to have that space on it. If it's only cloud, you don't need that space even. But I don't know if we. That's where I feel like I agree with you as far as us not being there on TV because we're very close. Like
Oh yeah,
we are.
yeah. No, it runs good on TV. I was
Yeah,
playing Starfield on it when it came out, but it's
and
not quite there.
yeah, and the fact that they have it on TV is evidence that we can do it on TV, but it's not replacing your Xbox. Like, and that's the thing. I think that's even more evidence to the fact that this can work. Like, it's on your TV. What's the difference if you boot it up on the fucking
Yep.
PlayStation instead? You know what I mean? You spent money on a box that can play this, and it's not an Xbox. Same deal. Like, they're already doing this. It's just this is one of their competitors but now they're dipping into, I mean, it can kind of win for them. Like they're dipping into the PlayStation toes because the people that have PS5s like video games, obviously, they would play good video games if they come to Xbox and you have the option. Like, just keep it like exclusive to Game Pass or cloud streaming, and you'll be fine, I feel like.
But
But
yeah, this whole thing kicking off is exactly why the console wars is fake. Because one of like the main five games, one of the main five games that came in that initial kind of leak announcement was Sea of Thieves.
mhm.
And niggas were, man, I don't want Sea of Thieves. Nah, you don't want it because it ain't on the PlayStation. As soon as it's on there, now niggas hype. Yo,
Yeah.
you finna fuck with that Sea of Thieves?
Yeah,
Come
we
on,
all
man.
trying to now, man. Like,
Yeah, just be real about it. Just be real about it.
yeah,
That's
like,
all.
and that's the thing I hate. Like, everybody's shitting on PlayStation players because it's like, oh, y'all didn't want Starfield, now y'all geek to play Starfield. I loved Starfield. I'm a PlayStation player. I'm a PlayStation Nintendo guy. Like, those are the systems that I always buy. Like a lot of us. Like you said, those are kind of the two boxes that fill the voids for you. But like I said, if some dope drops on Xbox, that's why I have Game Pass on my PC. So I can jump into Starfield because I don't have to pay for Persona 3 Reload because it's already on Game Pass and I can play it on my PC whenever. I don't even have to install it. Like you said, it's like cloud gaming is there. So they built up this ecosystem where it just makes sense. And literally Xbox is waiting for the other boxes, like the TVs, the PlayStations to catch up. All you got to do is check that box and say yes and unlock whatever you need to make it happen, and they can probably do it.
Crossplay, basically. As what we were
Yeah,
saying for 3 years about crossplay. Like all you have to do is flip a fucking switch.
bro. And remember when someone accidentally flipped the switch and then had to
Nigga,
flip it off and was like, "Oh
it's
no,
like
no,
too late
no!"
now. Nah, you
Yeah.
can't go back on that one.
And it changed the goddamn industry. Now we know you
Nigga,
can do this, so do it.
Fortnite
Like,
would not be Fortnite if somebody didn't flip that switch.
man, listen, I still remember that was the first thing I played crossplay. Like, I had my Switch in the room with my cousin who was playing on Xbox, and I'm like, yo, this is the future. Like, that's amazing.
I'll
So,
tell you what though, just as a quick aside regarding
mhm.
Nintendo, man, if the Switch 2 don't have like some better triggers, they gonna be out of the
Yeah,
shooting game because I can't play any shooter on a Switch. It's annoying the way
yeah,
those two triggers click like that. It's annoying.
yep.
It's not to say they ain't good. They
Yeah,
play good, but it's just it don't feel right.
it's doable. It's possible, obviously, but there's something missing. And I think they will get there. Like that's a good place to transition to because like the Nintendo's place in all this is very interesting. I want to talk about Xbox coming there and how yes, the Switch is going to need some hardware that can kind of handle that. Hopefully that this whole industry shakeup, which obviously has probably been talked about behind the scenes for like months, if not years before we started to hear about it. Hopefully this has kind of informed Nintendo's decisions on what they're going to do with their next console. Because if they put Xbox Game Pass on Nintendo, which we've all wanted for the longest, ever since they dropped Ori over there, we wanted that. Um, you're gonna have to kind of compensate for that. You need a system
Yeah.
beefy enough to run consistently streaming, games of that caliber, and you need controls that are gonna work. I think that we're at the point where the Joy-Cons have kind of been iterated on enough. Like they've not changed them since they came out, but it's been long enough that I can see them having some type of evolution for the Switch too. And I'm gonna need that.
Oh yeah, no, this is definitely gonna be some type of change with the controllers. Because that's what they do. Like
Yeah, but it's
that's
not
not.
always a gamer friendly change. You know
No,
what I
no, it's
mean?
not. No, it's not. Not at all.
Yeah, so we'll
Something's
see.
coming.
Yeah, but
That's the weird shit about them is that are they going to be so hung up on what you play has to be so tied to the control style that we're doing because that's kind
right.
of been their thing since the Wii is like our control schemes are different and that's what makes our games unique and it's like nah, this is the part where you hunker down and you just get money.
Yeah, yeah, like you don't have to reinvent the wheel at this point. Honestly, having their gimmick be the handheld console hybrid took away so much of that where it's like the Joy-Cons do a lot. They do more than the Wii remotes.
Yeah.
And we haven't had games aside from like, shit like One Two Switch or whatever that really forces you to use them. Like you can use them actually, I think to great effect in stuff like Zelda. Like personally, I use the tilt controls when I'm aiming just to refine my aim just a little bit because they're pretty fucking tight. Like if you're trying to get your angle right on something, you can kind of just tilt it just a little bit and you'll get in there. But it's stuff like that I want. Like I want them to have it as an addition, like sort of like the DualSense on the PS5 with all the haptic feedback and the triggers. the triggers have never like been a hindrance. You know what I mean? Like you have triggers that literally fight you back, but I don't feel like they've used them to the point where I'm like annoyed having to do this. Whereas Breath of the Wild, as opposed to Tears of the Kingdom, had that infamous shrine where you got to do the little, you know, those games where you tilt the box to make the ball fall and stuff. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
they had one of those and it was terrible. I mean, it was just terrible. I love that game. I like many
Objectively
people.
terrible.
Most of us flipped the thing over and slid it across the bottom of it and just like popped it in there. I'm not gonna lie to you. Nintendo, I'm
Yes.
sorry to break it to you, but that's what we did. But yeah,
Fuck
stuff like
your standard solution.
I think they love that shit. I think they
They do.
built Tears of the Kingdom to
They
to
did.
lean into that, you know. But yeah, we not rocking with that shit. But yeah, I want to see more subtle and meaningful innovation from Nintendo, and I want to see Xbox shit on Nintendo. I really think that having Game Pass and all that library, that'll be huge. Having that to streamable on like a Switch or a Switch successor, it'd be incredible.
Yeah, because they need to open up a whole new world of indie games and shit.
Man.
Like Game Pass going beyond Microsoft is kind of what Microsoft needs if they're going to go this route.
Hmm.
Um, but I think it's one of the things they wanted. I
Yeah.
think Microsoft is sitting here going, look, we're not going to flat out beat them.
Yeah.
And there's literally nothing wrong with this mentality. Like that's the thing. It's like people get so caught up in the console wars. They go, "Oh, Microsoft lose." No, no. But just realistically speaking, Nintendo's been around for 100 years,
Right.
literally 100 something years. They've been
Over.
gaming for 40 some, 50, almost
Hmm.
50 something years. But they've been around for that long. Sony's been around doing this gaming shit since 95.
I mean,
Xbox came in 01.
the fact that you survived till now is incredible. For real, for
Dog,
real. Like that's something that Nokia couldn't do. You know what I mean? Google could not do. Apple's
Google couldn't
scared to
hold on for
try.
a year.
Yeah, like Apple started where Xbox is potentially ending up. Like they was like, nah, we doing a platform. I mean Apple Arcade. And that's about as far as we going with it.
That's it.
So I mean, Xbox really came out and was just like, yeah, we're the third one. And this is how it's going to rock. And we coming for the mature gamers and we're going to stick with that. And people that like shooters and action games and racing games have stuck with this console for 20 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can't do anything but applaud that. But if this is the point where they transition into making games for other consoles or being a platform, I think that it fits them perfectly. They're Microsoft. Like, honestly,
They do
my
software. That's
man,
they shit.
facts. That's it's part of the name. You know what I mean? But honestly, I feel like if they lean into the level of integration they have with PC, that could kind of help them as well. Like, give me kind of not really like asking for access to your PC software, but kind of integrated with like that side of things. Like, like I said, Microsoft is already the ones holding down Windows. So anytime a Sony game comes to Windows, it's some partnership with or them working with Microsoft to some degree,
Right.
low level, high level, whatever. So I just feel like we're in an interesting place where anything can happen. Like they can start to get kind of funky with it if they kind of just open their doors up to other people. And it seems like that's really the direction we're going. So I'm here
Look,
for it.
man, between wrestling and gaming, both of these things have never been more fun than they have been in the last week. Mike, all
Man,
this shit going down with Microsoft. Rock comes back, slaps the taste out of Cody Rhodes last night, and everything's he's a bad guy. That motherfucker's been a corny good guy since 2011. He's just
yeah.
been Dwayne Johnson playing the Rock, and now he out here acting like a badass again. I'm with it. This shit has never been more fun than it is right now. Whatever Microsoft is cooking up, it's going to be a big deal, even though they're the little brother.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, speaking of that, like as far as being in third place, it's facts. Like it's not something to be up in arms about. Like you don't have to wave your green flag versus the blue flag or anything like that. They've been behind Sony and it's even the 360 era, which in the eyes of us, they won. Like
Oh yeah,
Microsoft won
they
that.
ran away with the 360.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
they
that
took
was
that.
their shit. A lot of my favorite games from gaming in that time are games like Metal Gear, like how I associate Metal Gear Solid with PlayStation. I associate Mass Effect,
With the
BioShock.
X. Yep.
You know what I mean? The modern Fallout games. All that I still associate with Xbox. So they had their run and they have an identity, despite what people believe. I just don't think they latched onto that. And I think that the Activision Blizzard deal kind of also shows you what direction they're going in. Like that's a software heavy move. That's the
Yeah.
biggest acquisition we've ever seen. So
I mean,
you
honestly,
got
I associate Call of Duty with Xbox.
I
I
get
mean,
yeah, yeah,
Sony jumped out there and tried to make the exclusive deals happen with DLC and shit. But
yeah.
I associate the DLC with Sony, but the game itself, it's an
Right,
Xbox game.
right. Like maybe, I cannot Warzone. Maybe that's like, associated with PlayStation because that's more recent and that's like modern Call of Duty stuff. But
It's just now leveled out as far
yeah,
as like the association with Call of Duty, just
yeah,
now. But
yeah.
that
Because
360 era, that was an Xbox game.
listen, Xbox Live and Call of Duty are like go together like peanut butter and jelly. It's just facts.
Man,
Like so it's
some
it's been
wild
a
times in those days.
yeah, I was gonna say it's been a crazy ride. Like they really popped online gaming in a way. I don't want this to sound like we're doing like a goddamn funeral for Xbox because they're not going anywhere. Like, but just to sit and appreciate everything that they've done, if this is the last
It's not a
moment
funeral; it's a
for,
celebration of life.
there you go. But I mean, yeah, to appreciate everything that they've done in gaming, like the way that they've kind of just jumped out here. Because yeah, online gaming is not what it is. Granted, PlayStation had the stuff like SOCOM. They had stuff like Final Fantasy 11. These were on PS2, so that's pretty
SOCOM should have been
huge.
bigger than what it was.
I say this all. I didn't even fucking play SOCOM, but I'm like
Dog,
this shit.
SOCOM was fucking incredible.
And
It
don't get
should
me
have been
wrong,
so much bigger than it was.
I have played SOCOM. I wasn't looking for multiplayer shit, and kind of still aren't. But at this time, I really wasn't. But even I played a little SOCOM, and I'm like, dog, this is a lot of people, bro. Like this is kind of crazy. This is
Yeah. Have you
next
ever
level.
considered that? Okay, like so we're both 33. So you be 34 soon.
So unfortunately,
Um, you ever considered like going back to that 360 era and thinking about the fact that you've probably walked past one of them white boys that called you the N-word?
man,
Just didn't know it. Like them little 12
man,
year olds from back then.
just the worst humans. Like
Like, yo, if
that
I knew it
was.
was you, I'd probably just hit you just off GP. Just, hey, you remember me?
It's really hard not to want to like to like track these little motherfuckers down when they do stuff like that. We say what a great time because we have rose tinted glasses. That shit was very prevalent. I learned a lot of
Man,
words. That shit was crazy. But
white
I
people are
feel
very clever with insults.
man,
When they're not just leaning on old reliable, which is basically the N word in a box, they're very
yeah.
clever with insults.
Man, listen, I feel like it goes a lot of different directions. I feel like everybody's a racist to everybody on that. You'll get a hard R from a black guy on fucking Xbox Live, bro. Like shit's crazy out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Just wild. But that no man's land made us where we are today, and I'm glad that we got here. And I'm very interested to see where things are going, man. I feel like that's kind of an interesting place to kind of bring things to a close. Do you have any final thoughts on what you might want from this future at Xbox, like how you would want things to go from here?
What I mainly want from it is Microsoft to take what they have in house. All of these companies that they've bought up, take everything that you have in house
Mm,
and use it to create more diverse games. Use it to be, like I said, to be the third party that we had in the days where EA was kind of the big third party when we were getting SSX and all this other
right.
NFL Street, all that stuff. We like the stuff is there. You see the 2K like does the the NBA playgrounds shit, and then they did
Hmm.
wild card football, and they're kind of like that's kind of their thing, like on in the street side. Make some shit like that with Microsoft. Do a
Right.
sports division of Microsoft where you just do these wild arcade games. Do some little mini shooter shit where it's not like a big shooter game. It's like a 5, 6 hour first person shooter, maybe with a solid multiplayer mode. But this is the opportunity. If you're going this way, this is the opportunity to actually expand what gaming is so that we're not constantly getting 15, 20 hour narrative masterpieces. Love you, Sony, but we don't need those all the fucking time. Or we're
Yeah.
not getting a first person shooter every other year where they're like Activision and Sledgehammer are fucking alternating every year,
Yeah,
or Ubisoft doing a fucking Assassin's Creed and they're dropping 6 of them in the next 6 years. Like this is the opportunity to bring some actual real diversity to the big stage because the indies have been doing it forever. But
right.
you've got a AAA company here with the chance to actually do some shit here. This is the time to do it.
Absolutely, 100%. And I actually want to throw out there that there are some rumors about them, shutting down some. I don't know all the details, but I've heard some rumors about possibly layoffs, possibly shutting down things from Toys for Bob, which like worked on like the Spyro and Crash games over at Activision, which kind of already been bled into the Call of Duty team. I remember. So we need less of that. We need to purchase these studios to bring out their strengths to kind of help them evolve and do the things that they want to create because there's a lot of diverse and creative people out there in this industry and we want to help them flourish as best we can. So Microsoft, I hope y'all do your part, man. This is an opportunity for you guys for sure, so I can agree with that. But let us know what you guys think of all this crazy Microsoft rumors, all this news is possibly coming next week. What do you guys want to see from the future Xbox? Would you transition directly to PlayStation? Like, would that just make more sense to you? We want to hear from you guys. Leave a comment below. Definitely like and subscribe, man. We want to know what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. So hit us up on Twitter. We're at Eclipse Theory and on Instagram at Eclipse.theory because we want to keep making this a show for you guys. But until next time, man, I am Kendall. This is Tony. And make sure you keep gaming.